Good?
I'm good there, Josh.
All right, welcome to the Breaking Ice podcast. My name is Josh Ferguson, your host, and today we have the lovely opportunity of sitting down with Danny Mcneely, our current MLA and longtime Sahtú resident. Grew up here. Am I correct about that?
Yes, you are there, Josh.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk about a bunch of things today, but we're going to kick it off with who are you? Where are you from? What was your upbringing like? And we'll go from there.
Yes, thanks, Josh, and thanks for the opportunity in sharing my my previous experience and current experience here as the current situation holds as the MLA for the Sahtú region. This, for your information, is going on my second term. My first term was from 2015 to 2019, and just recently, this past November 2023, I ran again to accept the confidence of the voters and representing them in the 20th Legislative Assembly.
Nice. And how did you find your first term? Was it, it's a job that I can't even really imagine having. Like, it seems so complex and sprawling in terms of your responsibilities. But clearly it was a good experience for you because you wanted to do it again. So what was your experience in the first time that you ran and served, and then what inspired you to go again?
Okay, Josh. Yeah, I guess back in 2015, why I ran at the time, I really seen a need for the Sahtú to be recognized and to improve the government services and positions that the government has to offer regions throughout the Northwest Territories. It was, for me, I would say challenging at most times here, being a first-term MLA, getting used to the policies and procedures of functioning and representing the Sahtú in the Legislative Assembly. It's totally different compared to the private sector that I really grew up in. Things don't seem to work that fast. So that was a huge challenge by itself, getting to work within that environment. But I'm going to say that with determination and persuasion, we were, when I say we, I mean the Sahtú, we were very successful in capturing a number of projects that are well needed for the Sahtú at the time. And I'm going to say that probably number one would be the achievement in securing $140 million for the long discussed and over delayed Mackenzie Valley Highway. So I made two trips in 2017 to lobby for that application that was sent from the GNWT to Ottawa for various funding sources. And aside from that, we got a health center in Toledo. We got a nursing staff unit in Toledo, and a school in Culver Lake, which was long overdue as well, and some other smaller type projects. And one of them was also having our own infrastructure department based here in Norman Wells, which secured 8+ jobs at the time, giving you authority to determine your own destination as far as the department infrastructure, looking after and being responsible for maintaining buildings and winter roads and marine dock services and those types of things. So I feel very privileged at the time there to not only represent the Sahtú for the first time in my working days, but also securing and trying to make a difference.
Yeah. And then did 4 years feel too short?
Actually, 4 years in that job went by very quickly. It almost seems that before you knew it, we were going into the last year, which is in preparation for finalizing a number of initiatives and legislation as well, and getting prepared for the upcoming election season.
Mm. And your attention must be divided in that sense. Like, it's hard to put your full attention towards, what you're aiming at if you're concerned about, I don't know, running and being elected again. Do you find that was like a big split in attention?
Yes, it was. Just to give you another example, Josh, here, the Sahtú, the MLA is responsible for 5 communities, and it's challenging to try to represent all 5 communities, and also try to make periodic visits routinely to these communities so that people can have a chance to talk to you one-on-one, and you're visiting the leaders and participating into annual gatherings and council meetings and so on.
Yeah.
So try to be in several places at the same time is challenging by itself.
Yeah, just by its nature.
Yeah.
And then, what was my next question? I was curious about, you know what? I don't even know. What were you in the private sector? You mentioned work in the private sector before you ran. What were you doing then?
Well, when I left my growing up years, Josh, I went to residential school. My grandfather had a store in Fort Good Hope, and my dad was the eldest son, and my dad followed his dad, so they developed a store in Fort Good Hope, and then moved on to Colville.
Just a general store, more or less?
It was a general store, yeah. My grandfather was a fur trader in those days, and established another store outlet there in Colville. And from both communities, like I grew up in Fort Good Hope, but spent a number of years in Colville, and then from there, from both communities, we went to residential school.
And where did you go to residential school?
It was in Inuvik at the Grolier Hall Institution.
Gotcha. And was it pretty strange to leave home at that time? Like, you were kind of used to growing up in where you grew up.
Yeah, it was really strange, Josh, when you think about it. You're 6 years old and you're leaving home, and now
so young.
Now, when I think about it, you're never going to see your parents for the next 9 months.
Yeah.
We stayed in Grolier Hall during the holidays, and went to school there with an old DC-3 or a twin otter or a single otter. At that time, it was the workhorse of the North Aircraft. So it took quite a number of hours to get from Colville Lake to Inuvik, and but the experience, like when I look back now, I can comprehend on that. But in those days, it was sort of a way of life that you went to school.
Sure, and it wasn't, you didn't really have say. It was just kind of like what things people did.
Yeah, exactly. It was normal in those days to go to school away and be months attending school under this disciplinary environment. And many a days there, you would get homesick and miss your parents during the 9 months being away.
Yeah, and how many students from your community went all at once then? Was it like, was there like a feeling in the air leaving, like, was everyone's kids were going?
Yeah, the population of Fort Good Hope was larger than Colville, so there was a larger student crowd coming from Colville. From Fort Good Hope, but when we moved to Colville, there was actually just 3 of us that departed. So that took up my my schooling years, and later on in life, I moved into the workforce and dropped out of school, and I still regret that to this day, and did participate in a number of jobs, and oil companies were quite active in this area. So I did a lot of that type of work. And then
how old were you at this point?
I was when I moved to Norman Wells, or started working in Norman Wells, I was 16.
Okay.
And I believe that was in 1975, 76. So I've been working here ever since.
Just to clarify, did you drop out of high school? And was you in Inuvik still?
Yes, I was in Inuvik there in 1975, I went back again for high school and never completed grade 9. At the time, there was quite an active economy in Inuvik, and a lot of the friends that I went to school with there dropped out as well because the paychecks were very attractive there by the oil companies.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you came to Norman Wells and have stayed here.
Yeah, I came to Norman Wells and worked in a number of jobs. And as things got a little bit more active in the economic world there, my brother and I acquired this going concern company. So we ran that for 15 years. And I would say prior to that there, Josh, the Norman Wells expansion started from 1980 to 1985. So I took an interest in working on the oil rigs, having worked on the smaller ones in the past. So I worked up my way to becoming the first Sahtú native driller. Okay. And I can say to this day that I'm older than your islands down at the Essa oil field, if you want to look at it from that perspective. So it was really a year-round, exciting time, economic time in those days. It wasn't season to season. It was year-round that we were employed there.
Mm-hmm. And is it more season to season now? I don't exactly know.
I would say season to season. What I mean season to season, Josh, is that an oil company would come in and do a drill program or a seismic program. So they get ready from December to the end of March and then shut her down for spring break.
Yeah, I talked to when I was talking to Charles, he was mentioning the year people would trap in the winter, but then some people would work in forestry or whatnot in the summer, and there was a season that was attractive for that. Like that's when the work was, right? So now you're saying that this work in Norman Wells was year round and during the expansion here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, during the expansion, it was really busy in those days. You had a number of companies there participating into the construction of these islands and construction.
So did you help build the island specifically?
No, I was working more in the oil rig side,
Gotcha.
not the earthworks or the civil side of building these islands.
And then when did you exit work with the Imperial or on the oil rigs?
I'm going to say in 1985, I moved on to another drill program because I didn't see the advancement going any further than my driller's position. I desperately wanted to move one more step up the ladder and being a tool push to operate the whole rig, but the opportunity didn't work out as to my expectations.
Fair enough. Those kinds of things happen. And then from there, kind of moving into the 2000s and whatnot, what did you do for work?
As I mentioned earlier, my brother and I acquired this heavy equipment company as a going concern, and we ran that for a number of years, 15 years, and did a number of projects, seasonal projects there. And in the summertime, we would have summer projects with the town of Norman Wells and miscellaneous private sector jobs coming up here and there. So we done that there for about 15 years. And then I decided to maybe look at politics and see if I can make a difference there.
Yeah. So what inspired you to do that? I feel like for most people, that's like a no-go zone or just like, you know, it's intimidating. I feel like
it could be intimidating, or else you can just grab the bull by the horns and try to make a difference.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I kind of took an aggressive way and pursuing that and analyzing how much our communities are in desperate need of education, health reform, and economic development, and the isolation of the region and the long acquired and talked about Mackenzie Valley Highway.
Yeah, really. How long have we been talking about that highway?
I'm going to say the first study that I read was dated 1999.
Okay, so sometime for sure. I heard people saying that it's been talked about for 50 years. Is that true?
I'm going to say yes. There's probably literature out there to confirm it's been talked about for 50 years here. If you look at it back in the day when the road to resources promoted by the Prime Minister at the time there, John Diefenbaker. Mm-hmm. So you can go as far back as that and saying it's been talked about to have a Mackenzie Valley Highway to the road to resources.
And I feel like a lot of people feel disenchanted with the idea, mostly because it has been talked about for 50 years and barely seen any kind of progress. So, what makes now different?
I'm going to say, Josh, when I pursued the lobbying efforts as an MLA and having gone to Ottawa 2 times there in 2017, once in June of that year, and then did a follow up meeting that fall there in September. The need exceeds the demand in this area, and it just goes right from mobilization of projects to the tourism potential, quite simply unlocking and bringing the civilization need to the people of the Sahtú, because quite equally we are a taxpayer just like anybody else down south there. So I felt that we're should be equally represented and equally distributed from the federal funds that could make a difference for this area, particularly now with the price of groceries going up and just the cost of living in general going out of the roof for every homeowner.
Yeah, it is pretty, uh, well, I guess stressful and um, remarkable how expensive things are currently, and specifically for the Sahtú, there's no doubt that the road would make a massive difference in terms of the economic impact. Um, does do companies up here have the capacity to kind of build it, or like, would it be local companies building it, or would it be outside contractors coming in? Do you have a sense of kind of what that would look like?
Josh, I'm going to say that we have the capacity locally here. If you look at the small section just recently completed from Norman Wells south to Christina Creek in 2 different segments, that was done locally. So if you look at that, and you can freely say that, yes, we have the capacity to build our own destination.
Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of getting the funding and to do so. And are there lots of like environmental regulations and kind of red tape in the way?
Yes, there is. Some of them, some of the red tape or the regulations are just a part of doing business and
Sure.
building infrastructure up in our neck of the woods here. But it's quite standard. It could be cumbersome, but with taking an aggressive, passionate approach, it's just one challenge that you overcome. And when you look back at it, there's a reward in your effort, seen by the smiles on people's faces, taking home a paycheck to build a well-needed piece of infrastructure that would tie us to the south.
Yeah, that'd be historic and meaningful, truly meaningful. Um, huh. I'm actually pretty optimistic about this road going in, and hopefully optimistic about the timeline. It seems like there's definitely some uh, newly vigorated energy being put towards it from organizations like SSI, and well, almost even across the board from leadership in the Sahtú, especially with the low water levels that we've been seeing. Um, if you had to give like a pessimistic projection for when you imagine the road would go in, what would you say to that?
To summarize that, Josh, I'm going to say I'm definitely optimistic, and what I would like to see moving forward is let us review the equity position that we've gathered and seen the investments from this phase. Yes, everybody wants and has been talking about a Mackenzie Valley Highway from Fort Wrigley to the Dempster Highway. But the government's position a number of years ago was to divide that and say, okay, phase one would be from Norman Wells south to Fort Wrigley. Now, if you look at the distance and how much pre-investment went in that area, of the original application that went in 2015 to the federal government for $700 million to build a highway to those 2 communities, including the Bear River Bridge, of that, we secured 26%. So if you look at it from that perspective and say, okay, well, we achieved a lot. There is a lot of bridges that went in the section, a lot of studies.
That have already been put in, the bridges.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the biggest one outstanding is the crossing at
at Bear River.
At Bear River. But we did get the 140 million that was announced in June of 2018 went to three different portions of that project. One being the largest of 70 million going towards the Bear River Bridge, and then 50 million going towards the regulatory engineering design and permitting acquisitions and the environmental assessment cost, and 25 million set aside to keep some people employed in the community of Fort Wrigley going north to Mount Gwinnett.
Mm. Okay. It would be remarkable to see a bridge go across the Bear River. Is there any feasibility to like a ferry in the meantime? Like, is there, if you used a ferry for that section of river or that crossing, could the rest of the road go in sooner, or does it kind of make sense to wait for the bridge?
I'm going to say we cannot afford to wait any longer. And if the possibility and economics and the funding availability is not there for the bridge, okay, let's entertain other options, including the ferry. But if you look at other projects recently done in the north, the Tuckanuvik Highway, for example, the Watee Road there to that community, on the average, they were doing about 50 kilometers a year. So if you look at the undeveloped area between Norman Wells and Fort Wrigley, you're looking at about 290 kilometers.
6 years.
So I'm going to say freely, you can probably have this section on acquired support funding in 5 years.
That'd be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome.
It would be remarkable. The Sahtú is the largest region of all regions in the Northwest Territories, covering 283,500 square kilometers.
Huge. It's huge.
It's twice the size of the three maritime provinces collectively. So if you gather the information like that and do your research and ask yourself, why are we still to some degree living in an impoverished environment?
Yeah, it doesn't quite make sense. I want to shift gears a little bit and kind of talk about what you learned in your career and growing up that has aided you so much in your career as a politician. So if you think back and kind of reflect for a moment, through school or through your mentoring from your parents and how you grew up, or even just through your business interactions, what were some kind of like key aspects of your personality and your education that have been critical in your time as an MLA?
I'm going to say, Josh, what really inspired me and really helped me out is the acquired economic experiences that I've gained in the private sector to relate to the need for this highway. And having done some heavy equipment work and projects really helped me do some designed approaches on how to finance this project. Some people might say financing is the wrong choice of words, but there is a program called P3, which undertakes concessionaires that do finance public infrastructure. So that's an option, as well as the other option of including direct funding to build this.
Is the blended approach kind of like a no-brainer? Is that possible? Can you blend those approaches or not so much?
Yes, you can use a pari passu environment or approach model to fund this this highway between Wrigley or Mount or Wrigley and Norman Wells. So if you look at that, and I've always said in the past, no funding, no project. So let's focus on funding and see how we can secure that. So that's my immediate approach here moving forward within the next year. Hopefully we can get some positive results here prior to the next federal election.
And how, oh man, I'm losing my questions today. You were mentioning that you had acquired experience through the private sector that was immensely helpful in your time as an MLA. Are there many politicians that have experience in the private sector, or do you find that you work with many people who are kind of lifetime bureaucrats?
I worked with both both groups there. Some people that have professional trades and are in the political community today, as well as some business people with the practical commerce knowledge and relating what I'm trying to do. So it really has helped me out in the private sector, gained experiences from previous projects and proposal writing and so on to help relate to those individuals that could comprehend and understand your desire to achieve this.
Mhm. And outside of the highway, do you have other goals and aspirations for your term, or do you feel like that is so critically important that most of your energy will go there?
I'm going to say that's the top of my energy, but I also see a need when I say government is here to improve your communities. And within government, you have a number of departments that could make a difference to the need for improved services into the Sahtú communities. Government's presence is in providing health care to the community, housing to the community, education to the community, and infrastructure to the community. So if you look at all those aspects of what government is responsible for, then you'd have to be quite active and diversified, knowledgeable in all those department areas that would contribute to program delivery and services to all the communities.
Yeah, that's definitely like a complex amount of knowledge to have. Like, it almost feels as like it's unreasonable for one person to be able to, advise on all that so much. Um, and like I kind of want to like stick on this topic for a minute, but seconding the highway, what do you feel like is the most critical issue facing this Sahtú these days?
Housing is a huge priority. Housing is a huge priority, but I've often said that in most recent years, the federal government taking a direct approach to Indigenous local governments and providing contributions to address housing is there, and it was not there 10 years ago.
Mm.
So there is some efforts to address that crisis. But I really enjoy favoring talking to the young people in the importance of education. I feel investing in education, investing to the youth would make a difference in their career challenges or career choices.
Well, and also having educated people that come from your region almost universally benefits your region, you know?
Yes, exactly. It's all part of your succession plan, Josh. You know, we can ask ourselves as leaders of the Sahtú, what is your education succession plan? The government currently has 375 government workers. A number of them are going to be retiring over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So we ask ourselves, what is our succession plan? Do we invest into education of the individuals to replace the ones that are going to be approaching retirement? So that's one way of looking at on the importance of education and actually providing security to the youth.
If you were talking to a young person directly right now and they were interested or might be entertaining the idea of kind of pursuing a career in politics or in public service, where should they start? What would be your advice in terms of how they should go about kind of aiming at that?
I'm going to say, Josh, research would be number one. Researching the choices that you want, assuming that you're going to make a choice in politics. Research some of the programs available to help educate your experience. The North has a Northern Leadership Program, for example, that the young people could enroll in and understand the political direction of this government or their government, if they want to look at it that way. So I would say research is probably the most important one to help educate yourself to better understand what you're going after. If you're going after to be an electrician, okay, well, you got to do your studies and so on. Same thing in the political area. It's just another job with many, many challenges and many, many voices of making a difference on taking government to the community.
And it seems to me like, relationship building and communication and persuasion and kind of like there's these character and kind of like uh, traits that are extremely helpful. And how did you feel like you honed your communication skills and whatnot over your life? And have those come more into focus since you started working in politics, or did you find that they were necessary in the private sector too?
It was necessary in the private sector, but I got to say, in the political area, is totally different, because in the private sector, you're securing income for your family, and in the public office sector, you're securing public income and services for a larger amount of people in 5 communities. So it's a different achievement for the people that you represent. In the private sector, well, you're looking after your own family and trying to build independence.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for someone who is looking to build up those kind of communication skills? You mentioned Northern Youth Leadership program and whatnot. That might be a useful way to do that. But, how can they put their attention towards, improving their, articulation, ability to communicate, and kind of, I feel like conflict resolution is also hugely important as a private public sector representative.
One of the things that I done there, Josh, like I sat on the community council in Fort Good Hope, and entering politics would mean a lot of getting involved with the community through the volunteer organizations, your NGOs, participating into public meetings, participating into the local governance councils, and so on. That helps you understand the issues facing your community, and understand how government programs operate and how to access these programs to provide services. So that would be the learning of making a political career. Yes, you can go to school to take political science, but are you really learning something there, or would you rather go out into the community and actively face the challenges and understand the challenges, and see how local government politics operates, then pursue that with that participation?
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the Sahtú and the territory is like a little more unique than maybe a career in political science would give you access to. And I'm sure there would be useful traits that you would get from that kind of a program. But locally, I feel like the best kind of thing to do is to get involved. Just like go and be present and be active and be engaged and enthusiastic about the work that is happening, and volunteer. But then the opportunities, I think, will come after that if you get involved.
Exactly. Practical knowledge. I'm a huge fan of practical knowledge and experience. Without that, you're reading from a book, but you haven't really felt it or experienced it in your true life or as a human being.
And is the political, career and kind of path one that you would encourage young people to strive towards?
I'm going to say yes. It depends on the individual's ambitions. Some people want to be a carpenter. Some people, sure. Young people, might want to be a pilot. Some people, young people, want to be a leader. There's a smaller crowd in every community that could be made available if they're interested in political leadership.
And in terms of your colleagues that you work with, is there a common thread between the character traits of everyone working there? Or do you find that it's like just tons of different people? Like, what kinds of people end up working in politics?
I'm going to say the types of people that work in politics would be the ones that are passionate about that and want to make a difference. So you have that group out there that really sees a need to make the NWT a different place to live within.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. That's really cool. So you mentioned that you were from Good Hope and you grew up there and then spent time in Colville too? Or did you spend more time in Colville or in Fort Good Hope? I don't exactly remember.
I spent more time in Fort Good Hope there. My dad followed his dad, so we grew up in Fort Good Hope, and granddad built a store in Colville, so my dad followed his dad and doing that, and grandfather passed away there in 1969, so we relocated back to Fort Good Hope.
Gotcha. And so the reason I bring that up is obviously because of the recent evacuations. Was it kind of difficult on a visceral level being from there to see the whole community evacuated like that. Like obviously any community evacuated is heart-wrenching, but I'm not from there, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, like you had mentioned, Josh. From any community facing wildfire disaster, similar to what we seen last year in the southern part of our territory, is really heart wrenching and disturbing. And for me, looking at the evacuation post pictures on Facebook and communicating with the local leadership, I seen the fire and the flames so close to one of the edge homes. It was very disturbing, and realized, this is my home community that's
Mm-hmm.
actually facing this, and to on top of that, to visualize and try to feel or understand how the homeowners and the residents are going through this huge catastrophe is just upon us.
And people had so little time to kind of prepare to leave. Like it was so all of a sudden. It feels like, as far as I knew, there wasn't a fire in Good Hope until everyone was being evacuated, right? So it really kind of felt like a surprise event. And now that folks are going back, do you have your thumb on the pulse of kind of like how people are feeling, and is there a lot of relief? I imagine there is, but kind of encapsulate that for us.
Yeah, it's a huge relief now that the last plane left Norman Wells with the evacuees last night. They're going to midnight. But right at the beginning, Josh, here, we left our spring sitting at the Legislative Assembly on June the 13th. I participated in the graduation ceremony of the grads in Toledo
Mm.
on the 14th, and I landed here the following day on June the 15th, only to face the issue that there is a evacuation order in place and people are coming here to Norman Wells. So I jumped right in with both feet to help try to assist the people coming off the planes, and I was glad to see that the government, the EMO team was in place, and everything fell into place quite comfortably, and adding to the accommodation of 221 people coming off the airplane. The town in Norman Wells stepped forward and really was actively involved in directing the traffic and accommodating the traffic and giving rides. As you know, we don't have a taxi service in this community, so there's a lot of volunteers that really stepped up to the plate to welcome the evacuees, and it was to me it was very heartwarming there to see the whole community pulling together.
Yeah, do you feel like the net outcome of the time of the community spending together, did it bring the communities closer, or I don't know, you definitely have a better sense of this all than me. And then my other question is, are there any parties in town that deserve a particular shout out in terms of their contributions to the efforts?
I'm not gonna say any single party or company. I'm going to say the whole community and the whole of government really participated. The private sector, the corporations, the outside organizations made a number of contributions. The airplane companies waived and donated freight costs to the groceries coming in. So it was a very long list of contributing efforts by so many.
And how long was the evacuation in total? Was from June 15th to last night, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Let's just say it was 3 weeks here to the day. And within that 3 weeks, there was a number of situations that happened. People wondering, when are we going home? I was asked several times by the same person in the same day, are we going home today?
Yeah.
So I told that person, well, I'll tell you what I told you an hour ago. Just be patient. So you can see that the concerns about going home, being away from home in an isolated little hotel room or someplace where they went was bad enough as it is. So we were trying to add words of comfort to say, listen, just be patient. You should be happy that the organizations and the volunteers are giving us a bed and 3 square meals a day.
I thought it was pretty cool to see, community volunteers kind of jump into action right at the beginning. Obviously, there wouldn't be enough time to kind of hire people and organizations to fill those roles right off the bat. There's no way that that could have anyone could have anticipated that. And then as the evacuation went on, you saw kind of more official pieces being put into place to support the evacuees. And I thought that was pretty inspiring to see people working on that to kind of make sure that, volunteers didn't get burnt out. There was obviously a big burden on everybody to make sure that everyone was comfortable. And then obviously a massive burden on the evacuees in terms of a mental burden of, is my home okay? Like, what's going on in Fort Good Hope? How did you feel about communication of information from the the community and kind of like in terms of current events? Did you feel like you guys were kept up to date adequately, or was that sufficient?
I'm going to say it was sufficient, but it was done even better. Just the word communication. We had communication going back and forth. Like myself, for example, I was communicating with the Fort Good Hope leadership, and the whole department here, led by Maca, was doing an excellent job in communicating back and forth with the community residents and evacuees, and the Department of, I still say forestry, but the Department of ECC. Everybody really stepped up to the plate, and I was saying to most everybody, communication is very important. People want to know what's happening with their home, with their community. So we had daily updates here by ECC at the school, where it was designated as a donated mess hall for the evacuees.
And did the evacuees feel well taken care of, as as was possible here?
I'm going to say yes and no, because no would be some people just wanted to get going and wanted to carry on with their life, including going back to their home. So you had that restless crowd, and you had the understanding of people there. They were quite understanding to say, okay, yes, we agree with you. It's a situation beyond our control, so we should be patient. So overall, I'm going to say that all the evacuees did very well.
And is Fort Good Hope as fortunate as Norman Wells in terms of the weather that we've been getting lately? It's just been raining. It feels like every night. And is that mirrored up there? I don't really have a thumb on the pulse of what I heard lots. I'd be like, oh, it's raining. And then people would be like, well, we need it in Good Hope and not here. So has it been as wet up there? Kind of, do you have a sense about that?
I'm going to say yes, it was wet in both communities. The weather that we seen here with the rain is a similar one they had earlier in Fort Good Hope. So that brought the wetness to both of our communities in a really well-needed time of the evacuation period.
Obviously it could have been wet all spring. That would have been kind of nice in some way, kind of a bummer in others. But what's the state of the fire now? And kind of what's the aftermath of the area around Fort Good Hope? I imagine that, for future years, it's going to be pretty well protected against forest fires to a certain extent now that so much of the area around it has burnt.
Yes, Josh, I'm going to say, it's kind of human nature that people understand the situation, having experienced. But good management, good governance means preparing for the worst. And a lot of times it's not a priority to plan for a flood or plan for a fire or an evacuation as a resulting of a fire. In this situation, there's things that could have been done better. There's the area of preparedness, preparing your community, similar to a lot of company protocols of safety and doing fire drills and having your drills to improve your safety manual side of your company's operation. In this case, it would be a community operation.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, people are getting back home, getting back to work, entering their homes after 3 weeks away. What a relief. I don't really have more to say than that, but like, what a relief to have people kind of getting back to their lives, because that kind of limbo time is so taxing. It's so taxing.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Josh, you're absolutely right. It's a huge relief last night there, seeing the final plane going home with the people there with smiles on their faces, going back to their actually home and bed and house. So it was relieving to see that, but I'm going to say some of the work is not complete now. We got to look at recovery. We got to look at the loss of the chopper pilot that ended his life because of the accident. So we got to pay our respects to the family there. And one of my discussions with the leadership in Good Hope was to have sort of a aftermath celebration. So I'll be heading to Fort Good Hope here after the weekend to participate in some of those discussions of closure. And I would say another huge impact over and above all that said and done would be the barge cancellation and the financial implications of that barge cancellation, whether it's your groceries for your home and the projects that were supposed to happen. I know one project in Toledo where they only have enough material to put the walls up and the roof up, then they got to stop.
Yeah, there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I imagine, well, the barge cancellation is detrimental enough on its own, but now with the added burden of these fires and aviation fuel being used at an astronomical rate, I assume, to kind of fight them, that's a pretty dire issue that we're facing as well.
Yes, this fire situation is really something that just happened with any unforeseen notice when the territorial government resupplied over before the winter road closure. They stockpiled a bunch of aviation fuel in Norman Wells and LNA, and just your annual community resupply by itself for home heating fuel and gasoline was resupplied to carry you to next winter road season. So that was said and done. Now we have depleted that stock in Norman Wells here because of the aircraft fires using our aviation stock. So that has to be flown in, and everything has to be flown in now. And what's the scary part or the concerning part to me, Josh, is that if we look at our Sahtú resupply, is that, I ask myself, is that 7 weeks out of the whole 52-week season because of the heavy truck traffic that's going to be hauling your groceries and dry goods and resupplies, whether it's fuel or oil, to the communities in that 7-week period.
Of the winter road being open?
Of the winter road.
Yeah.
So if you look at it on the annual resupply, yes, we used to have a barge, so we'd have summer resupply and winter resupply, but now we're only down to one.
So, obviously my brain immediately goes to when we resupply fuel and avgas, is there any sense in stockpiling a year and a half's worth? Is that even possible? Do we have the infrastructure to do that? Or is that kind of just like a pipe dream? Because I imagine, 6 months of additional fuel not only would carry you through, hopefully, for any kind of emergencies, but then give you a little bit of a cushion come some kind of a barge cancellation or something like that.
Okay, I'm going to say yes. If you look at the tank farms over at the available tank farms and tanks over at Imperial Oil, we could say, okay, could we rent that to stockpile annual fuel for Norman Wells, Fort Good Hope, and Colville? And those three communities are connected overland, and you don't have to cross the ice crossing in Toledo. Mm-hmm. So Toledo would have a similar model, and they got enough capacity there to hold their stock for a whole year. Mm-hmm. So that's one approach there available to you, and I'll be talking to the ministerial departments about this new divested or redesigned Sahtú resupply.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out as the situation develops in terms of how that will play out and what that is going to look like. But, in the meantime, I guess we can cross our fingers that avgas being flown in doesn't hike our prices more than necessary.
Oh, it will go up. I was recently speaking with a representative of Buffalo Airways, and they're going to be resupplying avgas here to Norman Wells, the firefighting planes that used our stock. So that's going to be replaced. So that'll be an added cost onto the aircraft community.
Yeah, no kidding. Let's switch gears a little bit. What do you like to do for fun? I feel like the public eye is like Danny McNeely's is all business. He's constantly working or whatnot. But what do you do to relax?
I'm going to say by relaxing, I enjoy doing what I'm doing. It doesn't matter whether it's Wednesday or Saturday or Sunday. I'm still communicating with other individuals that are of the same nature. And it really motivates me to see a smile on the face when I participate and bring a resolution to the homeowner. That's really my ideal time, and spending time with family as well. But
Yeah, of
my
course.
family's all grown up now.
And do you manage to spend time on the land in this position?
I try to do as much as I can. I enjoy fishing, so I really enjoy going to Delaney.
Nice. And when's your next fishing trip?
I'm going to say as soon as possible.
Yeah, you might as well get out, eh? That's awesome. And what kind of music do you like to listen to?
A variety of 60s and 70s and 80s type music, whether it's George Jones or whether it's Rod Stewart, a combination of.
Does the Legislative Assembly ever have a time to kind of celebrate together or whatnot, or is it like just all work in terms of the colleagueship?
I'm going to say we did in my first term had a number of functions where everybody, all 19 MLAs, were invited to the function and had some time alone that way. But annually, there's a retreat that happens where all 19 MLAs pick a spot, and they try to rotation that spot from the north to the south, and go out on the land or go out to a lodge or go out to a small community and isolate themselves and do some strategy discussions and just some networking
All together?
All together.
Yeah. Is that a pretty good time? Is that pretty interesting and productive?
Yeah, I would say it's very productive. I really enjoy those gatherings out there.
Oh, that's cool. And oh no, I keep forgetting my question. um, well, anything you'd like to add at the end here?
No, Josh, I would just say thank you very much for this opportunity and sharing some of my thoughts, and hope that everybody understands, where we all must pull together to have a resilient approach to putting Sahtú back on the map.
Yeah, no kidding. If there is anyone that you come across who you think would be worthwhile to have on the podcast or would be beneficial for them, or their message is needed to get out there in some way that I can be helpful in, the door is open. So and then you're also welcome to return anytime if you have something in specific you'd like to discuss, or a program that you want to that you're working on, or anything you'd like to do. You're always welcome back, and it's been great to have you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, take care, man.